What's up, guys? Matt Brown, John Haslbauer here for your Open preview. Of course, if you have not signed up over DraftKings or Pick 6 yet, we definitely say you should do that. And a little bit early here as we look at what's going on, and we want to give people an idea of what they are going to see over at Royal Portrush, what type of player maybe is going to play well, and what type of skill set that we are going to be looking at whenever we're putting together our models and things like that this week, and we're trying to figure out who we like the best. And so let's start out with some Royal Portrush thoughts here. What is this course going to bring? What are we looking at with the course?
Yeah, you know, the Open is known for its history and going back all these years, but Portrush is very new on the Rota. It did debut in 1951, but we really haven't seen it. We've only seen it once since then, and that was 2019. We are in Northern Ireland, so a great storyline in 2019 when Shane Lowry won it. The Irish and Northern Irish fan bases will be on everybody in the UK side, but especially the Irishmen. In 2019, Rory McIlroy famously started with a quad, so he'll be back for some vengeance this year in front of the Irish crowd as well. But if we're looking at this compared to other Open courses, broad strokes, this is a course that rewards ball striking more. When you have a final round of Shane Lowry and Tommy Fleetwood like we had in 2019, you can kind of deduce that as well, but I think that's true. There's a strategy to this course where if you hit it towards the trouble and you stay in the fairway, you set yourself up with the proper angles that you need to score. Shane Lowry won in the high teens last year. There were 30 players under par by the end of the week, so it's not a birdie fest. This is not St. Andrews. It's still standing the test of time against modern technology. But when I'm looking at, pick six slates and players that we can find an edge on in round one, I think it's the top ball strikers. It's guys who maybe aren't putting their best that you can buy low on because the greens are so different in an Open Championship than otherwise. But that great ball striking and control of your ball is really going to translate here, especially in the winds.
So when we look at some various statistics, obviously each and every week, if you're putting together a model or if you're just looking for guys, I know we always talk about approach, but outside of approach, is there any stat profile of a guy that you're looking to back this week?
Yeah, definitely approach first and foremost, absolutely. When you're playing in high winds, if you are not dead on with your approach play and you're hitting something that's a little spinny or not square on the club, you're going to lose it. It's going to exacerbate those misses. So approach is still priority number one, even more so this week than I would say last week with the Scottish Open, where I kind of modeled approach play less because the greens were so large and the wind is scattering it around so much. It's almost more of a putting contest. Can you keep it in play off the tee and then two putt your way around? At a Links Championship, it's always going to be important to have speed down on the greens because the greens are always oversized and undulated. So putting is important, but from a ball striking standpoint, after approach, I'm looking for driving accuracy more than driving distance here. We've seen that a lot at Open Championships. It's kind of this bomb and gouge proof layout where if you just take reckless abandon off the tee, like Rory McIlroy did in 2019, you can find yourself in the gorse bushes. You can find near misses that are kind of unluckily finding pot bunkers that you have to pitch out of, and internal out of bounds we see a lot of at Open Championships too, and at Royal Portrush. So I want accuracy off the tee. Lack of distance isn't going to hurt you. If you combine driving accuracy with approach accuracy, you're going to be set up pretty well here.
How do we feel around the green play is going to play at Royal Portrush?
Definitely important, but a different challenge here, right? Because we're working with very oversized undulated greens, so it gives you that optionality. You can do your Texas wedge over here, whatever the term for that is overseas, the equivalent. But if you're like a Victor Hovland and you're not super confident in your chipping, you can take that putter out a lot here. It's just you have to have like a little bit of an imagination. You're not hitting at the hole a lot of times. You're hitting around it to a slope to feed it down. We saw some of that at Oakmont for the U.S. Open. So I'm actually going to look a little bit there, like the guys who flash their short game, someone like an Adam Scott, even a J.J. Spawn. Those guys kind of let their short game carry them on difficult greens, and I think that type of approach can work here as well.
Yeah, I'm not writing out guys that are not good around the green this week for everything that you just said, because typically we are talking about guys, how well do they chip? How well do they chip off of short grass? Different things like that. And as you mentioned, I think there are going to be several opportunities that present themselves to where we can actually take those wedges out of their hands and just throw a putter in their hand and let them try to get it close up there. And I think that that's going to really and truly, for some of these dudes, maybe put them a little bit more in play for me than they would in some other weeks, because I hate me a guy that can't do anything around the greens.
Hey, you're speaking my language when I golf, and I can go somewhere where I don't have to take the wedge out and I can just putt around everywhere.
Yeah.
That's usually where I have my best rounds. So there's plenty of guys in this field who have the same feeling coming into a links course setup.
So as we look at some hypothetical, let's say we're putting some entries together over there on DraftKings for Pick 6. What might we be looking at here? And let's kind of talk through what we think about players. I mean, for example, there will definitely be something up on Rory McIlroy. There will definitely be something up on Scotty Scheffler. How are we feeling about those players this week?
Yeah, so the type of entries and games that we can expect to see on Pick 6 for like a Rory McIlroy. We know it's one round at a time on Pick 6. So in Rory's opening round, let's say hypothetically, this is a par 71. Let's say hypothetically we want to see if Rory's opening round scores more or less than 68.5. So is he going to shoot 2 under or better, or worse? I think that would be an interesting market for me, because we know he blew up in 2019. He had an awful start. He's going to be motivated. He's going to have the crowd on his side. He's been waiting 6 years for motivation to come back for redemption in front of the Northern Ireland crowd. So for me, if the question is, will Rory shoot 3 under or better, or 3 under or worse, I think he's going to come out with a vengeance. He's been he's turned it around a bit. He was not motivated whatsoever at the PGA Championship. I was wrong on that. Hand up. I thought he was going to be floodgates, dominate Quail Hollow and never look back after the career slam. He actually said, like, whoa, this is weird. I've always been chasing a career slam in majors, and now that I've done it, like, what do I do now? One thing he hasn't done yet is win a major in Ireland. Right, yeah. So we know he's going to be plenty motivated here, and he played really well after that opening quad. So I think that may go lost in history, that like he really battled back. He played himself out of it on the first hole and actually had a chance to win. Not to win. He actually had a chance to make the cut. So I'm very bullish on Rory McIlroy here. I'm sure the market, or I'm sure people who are looking to play Pick 6 and everything else are going to see Rory McIlroy in Ireland and chase it, but I'm just here to say I think that's a good approach. I'm high on Rory McIlroy this week.
Yeah, I think I am as well. I've ran kind of a preliminary model. He's certainly going to fall somewhere in the top 5, 6, something like that, of players that I've been looking at. One of the other guys that definitely models out well for me is Colin Morikawa, and I think that is a guy that I'm going to be looking to back for sure in some of my entries as well. Morikawa hadn't really done anything this season, John, but I feel he's right on the cusp, that he is just right there and just hasn't quite been able to turn the corner. And I do believe that Portrush is set up pretty well for somebody with his skill set.
100%. His name is on the claret jug already, right? So we got to give him his respect. He's gotten it done here before at an Open Championship. And this is a ball striker's course. What I mean by that is somebody like Colin Morikawa, who doesn't have the distance advantage that you might want to see at other major championships, is not going to be disadvantaged by that coming here. He can pick his spots. He can really precisely say, okay, not only do I need to hit the fairway, I have to hit the right side of this fairway to get the left side of the green pin location on my next shot. You have some buzz around his caddy switch, and I don't even know who's going to be on the bag for him in Portrush. I don't know how much that matters. Personally, I think you want some experience on the bag. Especially links experience. Like if you don't have your go-to caddy and you pick up a local guy from Northern Ireland, that might even be better in this case. And we'll see how he approaches that. But Colin Morikawa is super interesting play this week. Would not surprise me if he breaks that winless drought this week.
We know we're going to hear a lot about Shane Lowry. You mentioned he won last time that we were here. Shane playing pretty decent golf this year, but kind of the same deal, just hasn't really turned it on, hasn't quite gotten it there. How do you feel about his game entering Royal Portrush?
Yeah, Lowry, what an interesting case study for pick six, right? Because Shane Lowry has shown us Thursday to Saturday how many times this season that he's one of the best players, on the PGA Tour. And Sunday has just kind of been his kryptonite. He's gotten to that final round, and he hasn't done enough to get over the hump. He's played himself into contention often. His ball striking numbers are right up there in the top 10 on the PGA Tour this season. It's just something between the years to close out tournaments, and this is one of this is one of the very few tournaments that he has been able to close out a win. So good vibes coming back. His face is plastered on murals all over Portrush, so they love him here. They're gonna will him on. So the first round, yes, I love Shane Lowry. I'm very bullish on Shane Lowry. That will probably be put into whatever his more or less figures are in round one. But how could you not be bullish on Shane Lowry coming back to Portrush?
Another very buzzworthy name as we head into the Open is Bob McIntyre. We know anytime we're playing overseas, everybody wants to back Bob McIntyre. How are you feeling about Bobby Mac?
Yeah, I'm all in on him at the Scottish Open, and it's maybe a little bit of a defending champion hangover for the Scot. But what a consummate links player, just puts the ball in play. Grew up on this style of course, knows these like very slow but large undulated greens, and that's a superpower here, because how many of the best players in the game are unfamiliar with links turf beyond this 1 week a year? So he's got a little something in his back pocket coming back here. Was a rookie, I believe, in 2019 and made the cut here. Actually, I think he did more than make the cut. He was kind of in the mix here. So I don't think he's sneaking up on anybody, especially after finishing runner-up at the U.S. Open, but a guy you can kind of feel pretty safe about, I think, with his floor and pedigree on links golf courses.
Let me give you a wad of names here and see if there's anybody you can pick out that maybe you're not as high on, and certainly guys that we will have conversations about as we tee this thing up. Let's talk Victor Hovland. Let's say Tommy Fleetwood. Let's say John Rahm. Let's throw in Patrick Cantlay, any of those names out there that maybe we're not as high on this week?
Yeah, you're right. I've sung the praises of everybody you've brought up so far, so that doesn't help the people. I would say, Hovland maybe a little less bullish on, just because, yes, you can get away with Texas wedging it around here, but I think that was ultimately his kind of demise at Oakmont as well. Not that he had a poor performance by any means, but I think a links course like this is going to accentuate that just a little bit more than Oakmont might have. And Cantlay is someone who's like, he's going to be priced up there amongst like maybe the top 10 favorites this week. And it's just been a disappointing season for him from my standpoint this year. I like Cantlay on courses that are a bit more open off the tee, because he keeps adding that distance, and that's a skill set here that I'm devaluing. And I don't think he gets away with that as much here. So I would sell on Cantlay, and if we get a little 1v1 with Cantlay in round one, pick six, that would be somewhere I'm probably going to go the other way.
If there's anybody that's going to get heckled this week, it will be Patrick Cantlay. Like if there's anybody that the crowd is going to follow around to do nothing more than try to get under his skin, it is very likely to be Patrick Cantlay. I mean, they do not like Patrick Cantlay over there.
No, they do not. And his Ryder Cup antics at Marco Simone, the last time a lot of these guys saw him up close and personal, they probably didn't love that either. So, yes, you're right. In the same way we are riding the high and the vibes with Shane Lowry, we are doing the opposite with Patrick Cantlay at Royal Portrush.
Do we like any of the old dudes in this thing? I mean, like, and I say old, I know Keegan Bradley's not old per se, but you got him and Patrick Reed and guys like that are in their later 30s, Jason Day, these dudes that are still playing at a decently high level, Adam Scott, but haven't quite been able again this year to get across the finish line. Do we like any of the old guys?
Yeah, Adam Scott is interesting to me in the mix at the U.S. Open. I think he has 8 top 15 finishes in his career at the Open Championship. And, even if he hasn't gotten over the line, just the fact that he's played in that many and he's played well in that many is such an advantage, again, over some of the young stars in the game, like a Oberg, Hovland. These guys have only seen links golf a couple times, even if they are European. So I like Scott for the current form. He's holding his own right now in the Scottish Open. Looked great at Oakmont, which I think comps fairly well from a short game perspective. And a real dart throw wild card. Lee Westwood is actually like starting to percolate a little bit. He qualified for the Open. He's in the mix. I believe he's leading Live Valderrama the week before the Open, which is a tough course. And if you can play well there, that's a good sign that your form is in a good spot. He'll be deep down in any 1v1s you can find, in pick 6 for round 1. So that might be a little diamond in the rough for you. A strategist, a Englishman who knows the UK and has so much experience under his belt. He'll know his way around here, and he was in the mix in 2019 as well.
Two guys we got to hit on before we get out of here. Over, under, let's say like the 4.5 being the finishing position for Scotty Scheffler. Like, what do we think? Like, where do we think the finishing position for Scotty Scheffler falls?
Yeah, that's a good. That's a good place to put him. I think. Are we saying after round 1? What is his position for this one?
Yeah, let's. Well, I'll let you off the hook and say after round 1. Yeah, So, yeah, I'll let you off the hook. I was kind of thinking, like, what do you think about him from an entire tournament perspective? But it's kind of hard. Scotty Scheffler, right? I mean, like he's going to be in the mix. I think we both.
Yeah, you got to feel pretty good about Scotty Scheffler being in the mix at top 5 by the end of this tournament. There is a lot more randomness at an Open Championship Links venue than a typical PGA Tour venue, and typically what we've seen from Scheffler is if the course is predictable, he wins, and he wins by a lot. And if you add variance to the course and you get this unpredictable, unlucky bounce, trickle down, hit the fairway, but it rides a ridge into a pot bunker, that's where he gets a little bit frustrated. Not unlike Jon Rahm as well, where it's like you hit a good shot and it doesn't go rewarded, and all of a sudden he kind of, the wires in his brain disconnect. Like, how is that possible? So, yes, if you're looking for an out, this is the type of course that is, Scotty Scheffler proof in a sense, where he can play his best golf and not necessarily have it go rewarded. I'm terrified to take the other side against Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, we're trying not to take less on anything with Scotty Scheffler, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very, very scary. The final guy, we know he did not. If you look at my stat projections and the modeling stuff that I've got here, John, Bryson does not, at least in this first run for me, Bryson DeChambeau does not model out very well for me. That being said, everyone's going to talk about him. Everyone is going to have a discussion about Bryson DeChambeau and whether or not he can play well at a course like this. What does your gut tell you?
Bryson always surprises me. I went almost all in on Bryson at Oakmont. Every format I was looking at, I had exposure to Bryson DeChambeau. And because, you thought you could just kind of bomb and gouge around there, and he's in such great form. I guess my point is, like, it never goes according to plan with Bryson. When it's a slam dunk, it doesn't happen. And when it's not a typical Bryson course, like I would say Pinehurst was not a typical Bryson course. You felt like you couldn't bomb and gouge your way around there, and there was this penalty for missing the fairway, and lo and behold, that's where he picked up his U.S. Open win. So, I think he will be a less popular consideration here. His track record on links courses is not the best. So he's not somebody that I'm naturally gravitating to, but if the week goes on and we are softening on Bryson DeChambeau, then he may be a good buy low consideration.
Yeah, it's like I said, doesn't model out, at least in my initial model here, very well. But the other thing that you said rings true as well. He has not modeled out well for me at several different places and gone out and played well. So Bryson always tends to figure out a way. Of course, John's full write-up and all of his thoughts will be over at Lineups as well. So, John, as we close this thing out, who is the winner of the Open Championship?
Yeah, it's early, and I can find myself oscillating in a lot of different directions. But the guy I'm going to go with right now, the one who feels right to me, is Tyrrell Hatton. You're going to see his name a little short up there, an Englishman coming home. Another consummate links player. We talk about Bob Mack as a consummate links player. Tyrrell Hatton, before he came over to the PGA Tour, was just dominating on links courses. He was picking up all of his European wins at the Alfred Dunhill, all these other links style courses. Was right in the mix at Oakmont, doing all the things with a short game perspective that I think will translate here on a large and undulating slope. And you know, a lot of talk about getting unlucky there, not getting the right bounces. Say what you will about Tyrrell Hatton in that regard, but this is the type of course that I think really plays into his game. He doesn't have the distance, but he does have the accuracy, and he's a great short game player and is having a good season. So things are really pointing me towards Tyrrell. We'll see if he can get it done, but yeah, that's maybe my diamond in the rough. I don't know how many people are also going to be high on him, but I like Tyrrell.
Tyrrell Hatton, you heard it here first, folks. Tyrrell Hatton, the guy we'll be backing here. Good luck on all of your picks.
Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app for a special new customer offer. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/CT. 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 21 plus Arizona and Massachusetts. Valid only where Pick 6 operates. See dkng.co/Pick6 states. Void in New York, Ontario, and where prohibited. Eligibility restrictions apply. Sponsored by DK.